In an ever-changing landscape of college football and recruiting, there's only a few constants. Jerry Neuheisel and the Bruins have the beef. In addition, DBU.
You are Locked On UCLA, your daily podcast on the UCLA Bruins. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome, everybody, to this edition of the Locked On UCLA Podcast. I'm your host, Zach Anderson-Yoxsimer. Thanks for making this show your first listen each and every day. It's free wherever you get your podcast, and it's available on YouTube. Like, comment, subscribe. Your team every day. This episode is brought to you by the College Football Playoff. It's here, and you don't want to miss a moment of the action. The College Football Playoff is presented by Allstate and begins with 4 first-round games, December 20th and 21st on ESPN, ABC, TNT, and Max. All right, all that gets started this weekend. Hey, where we get started today is UCLA continues to just mash buttons in the portal. They're like, we want this guy. Yes, everything. But they're also being selective and addressing key needs. So what has UCLA done so far? They have now currently added up to 10 commits in the transfer portal, and all that adds up to still plenty more, I think. I think UCLA is probably going to go after Coach Mead's son, the new DB's coach, which would make it 11. The Bruins already have, I believe, 5 commits via the portal for the secondary, and UCLA is absolutely beefing up the offensive line. Everything UCLA has needed to address in positions of need, whether it's been hurt by the portal prior to Chip Kelly leaving, after Chip Kelly leaving, or even this offseason, UCLA's mostly addressed it outside of skill positions. They haven't really tried to go after quarterback, nor have they gone after or secured a running back. They have been rumored to be interested in Cal's quarterback, Fernando Mendoza. They did take a look at the former Washington State player at running back, and then he said, no, I'm going to choose between Arizona and Utah. And UCLA already has a receiver commit, Jadon Wilson from Arkansas. The Bruins receiver room, I think, is just fine. But what they've needed is offensive linemen to help beef everything up for the Bruins. How so? Why so? What did UCLA do? They got Eugene Brooks here on December the 18th. Some of you are currently holiday shopping, Christmas shopping. You're stuck in the mall buying sweets, taking pictures with Santa Claus, counting down the days so you can enjoy your 2 weeks off until New Year's and go to 2025. And then you're going to get that calendar. We're going to mark down all those UCLA football game days because it's getting a little more exciting now. It's getting more legit with what DeShaun Foster is doing to change his staff and translate this into 2025 success. Because after the 24 season, even during this season, I was wondering, UCLA has a lot of key veterans, and they're not looking like a team that would compete right away in 2025. If anything, the decline would come in the 25 season, or it looks worse than 24, right? Well, DeShaun Foster and his recruiting team is doing everything they can in their first full recruiting cycle to make sure that doesn't happen. If you didn't like the offense the way it was going, Eric Bieniemy, well, he's currently getting interviewed by Colin Cowherd about the Kansas City Chiefs. Nothing talked about UCLA. The Bruins get a new hot commodity in Tino Sunseri, who flips a quarterback the last day. And then maybe you don't like the DB's coach. Well, they're flipping from Brian Norwood to Coach Mead, a former Bruin. And then all of a sudden, they're bringing back former Jim Mora era guys to reestablish the physicality, the toughness, the grit that UCLA football had, trying to combine that with this new wave of the youngsters with energy and vibes and NIL and transfer portal, combining that into something that can translate into Rose Bowl attendance and all of a sudden Big Ten contention. So then, all right, I'm thinking, okay, bring Coach Mead. You're bringing in, Scott White, who got a promotion. You've given now Jerry Neuheisel a promotion to assistant head coach. Think about Jerry for a second. Jerry Neuheisel, a UCLA quarterback, of course, the son of Rick Neuheisel, was there for one staff, then went to another staff. Famously was the backup quarterback coming in for a win to lead UCLA to a win over Texas in Jerry's world, literally. And then all of a sudden, he's become a UCLA staffer, beloved. He's been on multiple staffs, keeps getting a level up every chance he gets, and is, if need be, a great recruiter. If need be, a solid coach. He's turned into a tight ends coach and now an assistant head coach. That only tells you how much DeShaun Foster is finding the right guys, and Jerry Neuheisel is a guy that's been around for multiple staff changes. And you can find those specific intangibles in a guy when you're like, hey, he's beloved by everybody. And that's what Jerry Neuheisel is. Coach Meat, you see what he's done. He's brought talent, flipped them on the last minute like LaRue Zamorano, and all of a sudden, UCLA, as I'm touting them, DBU. Some schools will use that moniker. They've already claimed that term for historical purposes. But the Bruins, with 5 commits, I'm expecting a 6th if Coach brings his son in the portal. He's currently crystal balled from Arizona. Didn't get a lot of playing time with an injury. He's supposed to be really good from Oregon, went to Arizona after his dad left Oregon, and then maybe come back westward and come to Westwood to join his dad at UCLA. If that's the case, if the crystal balls are all accurate, then the Bruins will have a completely revamped secondary, and we would have forgotten the names of John Humphrey, Kamari Ramsey, even Jalen Davies, who went to the portal. And all of a sudden, hey, what happened to all these guys from last year? They just got the job started in 24, giving a Kaika Malloy a respectable defense, and you bring in some guys on offense that don't need to keep the defense out there for so long. You've got Eugene Brooks, who just visited UCLA on December 17th, redshirted one of his years at Oklahoma, and is an absolutely big pickup for the Bruins as an interior offensive lineman. An offensive guard for UCLA. When they're picking up some tackles, this is the 3rd offensive lineman they've picked up to go along with the 5 or 6 or so DBs. And now the Bruins have turned themselves into, hey, we can somewhat match the physicality of the Big Ten. For teams that want to go up and down the field and score, we can guard them. And if UCLA gets healthy on the D-line, / the mixture and development on the D-lineman from the freshmen with the transfer guys, bringing in Keanu Williams back, UCLA just needs to shore up what's going on in the linebacker room, and the defense could be really fun to watch. If they can figure out the right mix of pressure, get the right guys moving up to the linebacker room, does that mean Carson Schlesinger comes back? I don't really know what his head is at. Is it a big payday in the NFL, getting drafted, checking out those waters? Is it coming back, securing a huge NIL deal as a first-team AP All-American? And if he comes back, that would mean UCLA has a centerpiece of their defense. If not, the Bruins can go find something else elsewhere. And thank all the linebackers for their services the last couple of years. What they've done, Eugene Brooks, arguably one of the best recruits UCLA's gotten ratings-wise, and you can throw things at me about ratings. The highest rated transfer right now in this UCLA recruiting class. If you go by score, I think it was 24/7 Sports, maybe it's on 3, that has Eugene Brooks as one of the highest rated guys in their class right now. So they have 10 commits after a slow week and a slow buildup. Of course, you got to make your calls. You got to make your pitches, throw out your NIL offers. What is UCLA going to offer as a public UC school under the new umbrella of the champion of Westwood NIL? What can UCLA do becoming a true contender in the Big Ten? Well, all of a sudden, you've got 10 commits, more to come, and immediately they've gone after, hey, a 6'4" offensive lineman who is a 4-star O-lineman out of high school, and now he's one of the highest rated guys UCLA has, close to a 90 percentage points if you look at on 3, the highest UCLA's gotten. Aaron Williams, coming from Louisville, former St. John Bosco kid, played at Corona Centennial, so that means that's a guy who had a 4-star rating as a DB out of high school, played at 2 of the best high schools you could play at, both public and private, in the local prep scene in SoCal. So you know he's played against talent and been in practices with the most talent. Comes over to UCLA from Louisville, is going to add much-needed depth at the corner position, going to add much-needed talent there too. And even if any of these 5 guys doesn't pan out, what UCLA's brought in with Hudson as a safety as a freshman, you've brought in Karan Jabari Jr., you've brought in so much talent and so much depth, I'm not sure UCLA has to worry about, other than maybe just getting Coach Martin's son over to UCLA. You've worried about the secondary, you beef it up front, they can get a linebacker mixed in there, and all UCLA has to worry about is maybe if Indiana loses early, get Coach Tino working in the portal more. And what he's already done, not even being a UCLA coach for more than an hour, officially or unofficially, led to a flipped commit from McDaniel going to UCLA. And what UCLA is focusing on right now, with Aaron Williams, the latest commits, Eugene Brooks, probably more to come, makes me think, does UCLA believe they already have their quarterback, their running back, their receivers of the future? Do they already have that and think, hey, their coordinator believes he can work with any quarterback after what they've done with Curtis Rourke in Indiana, making them a playoff team and a very physical, tough-minded football team with Kurt Cignetti. And all they needed was offensive linemen. Because tell me Tino did not look at that UCLA sideline and saw either they're tough or they're not, or they just need an old lineman or two, or three in this case, to go along with what they have, and maybe they can be a competitive team in the Big Ten. And now I'm excited for 2025. I truly am, because there's still obviously more things to get. They cannot be done. But I'm excited with what they've done so far, going from literally 0 to 100, or in this case, 1 to 10 commits, promoting Jerry Neuheisel. So they know who are the guys who are making the biggest impacts, whether it's the kids' lives, the recruiting, the relationships, the coaching, and bringing back the old vibes to Westwood, Pasadena, and turning themselves into a program that's desirable to go to, a desired destination. You can only throw out the beach in LA so many times before they go look at other stadiums and see that they're packed out. You got to get guys to buy into the vision. Nowadays, you got to buy into it for a year, or get them to buy in it throughout spring practice and into fall camp, and not just leave after they haven't played for 4 games. That's what DeShaun Foster was able to do with this year's team, despite a terrible 1-5 start against a murderer's row of opponents at home and on the road. But now with the excitement, the energy he's brought, even though he's not the most loquacious guy, sometimes you need a CEO type that can fulfill his coaching staff with guys around him that know how to recruit, can be loud, can be stern, can work on the discipline aspect of his DRE, discipline, respect, and enthusiasm, his 3 pillars, and build this team into a program that in the 12-team playoff era, you go against what could be an easier schedule in 25 than it was in 24, and maybe make a run at contending for a strong bowl game. And then we can dream, if they go on a good start, to something even greater, because Indiana showed it. Arizona State, probably more of a model than Indiana is for UCLA. Rough year 1 under Kenny Dillingham. Hit the portal, lost his quarterback, got rid of his coordinator in the middle of his first year. And here Arizona State is, a shocking team making it to the CFP and not even being in it until the last 2 weeks of the season. That's maybe what UCLA is trying to model after. Not necessarily Indiana's, but the Kenny Dillinghams, the young, youthful coach, not exactly what DeShaun Foster is. He's not the loud guy, not the quotable guy, but trying to make a 2-year transition from a tough situation into something pretty shocking. Because if you're in the Big Ten, they're going to give you respect if you go 11-1 and beat the teams you're supposed to be, 10-2. And here the Bruins are getting some shored up defensive pieces, bringing in, beefing up the O-line, and keeping the coaches they want. And so far, nothing about a Kaika Malloy trying to leave. All good things. Now, that could change in the blink of an eye. Absolutely. I could be sitting here singing the sorrows and singing the blues tomorrow. But right now, I'm liking what they're doing. And liking what you're doing, UCLA men's basketball, they have dominated a sluggish start to the game, but they put up a lot of points. We'll talk about that next on Locked On UCLA. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats and so much more on the same page where you place your live bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win that first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. All right, I've told you about Prize Picks before. Let's tell you about Prize Picks again. The best place to get in on the real money action, the real money sports action. And hey, it's America's #1 daily fantasy sports app. You can make your holidays bigger and brighter with Prize Picks, the best place to get real money action while watching your favorite sports. You can win up to 1,000 times your money on Prize Picks because they now offer MasterCard for quick and easy deposits into your account this sports season. Just this sports season, Prize Picks is giving away 2 free picks in December, and they're giving away $30+ million in rewards during Picksmas. What does that include? If you think James Cook will get more than 60 yards next week, or Joe Burrow is going to get more and pass for more than a touchdown and a half, cook up hot takes with your friends and get real money this football season when you and your crew run your game on Prize Picks. Again, download the app today. Use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Again, use the code LOCKEDONCollege. You get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Download the app. Prize Picks. Run your game. Cruising on here into the second segment for Locked On UCLA. We are talking hoops, and if anything changes while I'm recording, I'm going to try my best to sneak it in here. At the moment, we are focusing back about UCLA men's hoops. 111 under Mick Cronin coach team, no less. Who would have thought this team could have scored 111 in regulation? Who would have thunk it? The Bruins put up 111 in regulation, win 111-75. Ouch. One of those teams Cronin focused specifically on in the portal to get these guys able to score this season. Who are UCLA's leading scorers? You got Bilodeau, who had 18 on 6 shots. Kobe Johnson, 12 points with 7 assists, 5 rebounds, 4 of 7 shooting. And Kobe Johnson in this game had 3 steals. Okay. That's a senior guard plug and play. Who else did you get? Eric Daly Jr., 13 points, 4 boards. So all those guys scoring in a variety of ways. A UCLA team who, despite a sluggish start defensively, was able to bring in a Trent Perry who, as a late flip, get 11 points. The Bruins put up 111. That's without Sebastian Mack playing in this game, really. In this game, Sebastian Mack, one of UCLA's most reliable attacking options off the bench, most reliable threats to get to the free throw line, the Bruins shot 37 free throws. Unbelievable amount of free throws. And that's a game where Mack did not play. He technically made an appearance, yes, made 3, had 3 minutes, turned it over, hit a 3, or missed a 3, I should say. And yet did nothing. Did not contribute to the game. And Mick Cronin post-game was frustrated with what his sophomore had to do after the Arizona game. Said he had some knee swelling. But the way he phrased it, it felt like he's a little hurting, but wasn't ready to compete for this game against Prairie View A&M. So maybe it was one of those, he was, just dogging it and wanted to wait till the North Carolina game. I don't know. Mick Cronin was mad and demanded accountability. And he also went after Dominic Harris, talking about how he didn't deserve to play in the game. And that's why he only had 5 minutes playing time. And despite that, Dominic Harris had 5 points. So now we're getting a better idea as to what Mick Cronin is demanding out of his team. Well, we knew that. More that Dominic Harris is in the doghouse. So when UCLA, their 3-point numbers are getting better and better. That's without one of the best 3-point shooters on this team even contributing to this point. You've got Sebastian Mack, who maybe is in the doghouse for a game. Maybe he's a little bit injured. Cronin didn't really elaborate on it other than he was disappointed and also resting him at the same time. All right. It's one of those things, maybe when you're a parent, you're probably mad at your kid, but they're also sick and a little sad about something, but you need to discipline them. It's kind of like that mixture of well, they have a cold, but I wasn't going to let you out anyway. So it's better that you rest, but we're not going to do the fun thing. And then I'm still mad at you. It's kind of the vibe Mick Cronin's giving off right now with his team, with those 2 players specifically. He cannot be happy with Prairie View A&M scoring 75. Now, don't get me wrong. Prairie View A&M looked much better than a 1-in-10 team now? They're 1-in-10. They looked so much better than a 1-in-10 team. And I remember looking at their schedule okay, they did something close. I think, what was it against Mississippi State? They were up 17 against Mississippi State, lost that one heartbreakingly late when they put up 84 points against them. Okay, and I think Mississippi State had been ranked for a moment. Maybe I could be wrong about that. They had LMU beats a WCC team. This is a Prairie View A&M team that's played 11 games in a row on the road. All right, 11 games in the row on the road. That's ridiculous. And they came in and looked so much better. If you're trying to rate 1-in-10 teams in the country and you bring in Doug Gottlieb's 2-in-10, 2-in-11 team, Prairie View A&M would probably smoke Green Bay's team right now. That Doug Gottlieb run team who just lost to Michigan Tech while calling them nobody. You said they'd beat them by 20. They get smoked by this Prairie View A&M team. So they came in very athletic, very quick, forced UCLA into some ugly turnovers. And the funny thing about this UCLA team, there's just some stretches of basketball where they just play god-awful. Like, literally atrocious to watch. And they're up 10, and you're like, they're up 8. They're playing horrible. You get a little scared because you know Mick Cronin's teams don't always have the best offensive sets. And here they are scoring almost 120 points, shooting 40 free throws, and one of their best options didn't even really play in the game. That's how good this team is this year. That's how good that on the night when the other team is shooting really well, when the opposition shot 24, 25 free throws, the Bruins still cooked them by 40. Still. Normally on days where UCLA gives up 75, they're getting blown out. They're having to win a high-scoring game. Well, in this case, for a Mick Cronin-led team, for a UCLA team that's got the best scoring defense coming into this week in the country, well, you had Tillman score 24 points, hit almost all his threes. You had Anderson go out there for 19 points, hit 60% of his shots, and get quite a few rebounds before he fouled out. They came in gritty and tough and responded well after a heartbreaking buzzer-beating loss at LMU. I highly encourage you to go watch the highlights. If you did not watch them on SportsCenter, if you did not see any highlights of it on YouTube, social media, whatever, go see how that Prairie View A&M team lost and how they responded and gave UCLA quite a fight. The Bruins had to score not only 53 points in the first half, put in 60 in the second half. Now, it's a little different because UCLA had Dylan Andrews out there late. This team is so deep that as much as I'm hyping up Prairie View A&M, UCLA's second 5 would pretty much mostly be Prairie View A&M's starting 5. And that's with some very good players on that roster who are scoring a lot of points for Prairie View A&M, right? Now, one of my favorite coaches I've ever interacted with on that coaching staff for Prairie View A&M. So I got a lot of respect over there. But UCLA, man, there are just times they do some stupid things. It feels like they're going to turn it over 20 times when they face that full court pressure a little bit. Throw it away, tipped, deflections. And no, UCLA, what do? They win the rebounding battle plus 16 because they have a lot more size. Rare time they'll do that this year. And then Prairie View A&M turned it over 17. The Bruins are one of the best teams in the country at forcing turnovers from the opposition. And not only do they do that, they turn that into 31 points off 17 turnovers. That is just like every time they force a turnover, they're getting 2 points out of it. 2 points, 2 points. Just about. They're pretty much doing that. That is an elite rate of converting turnovers into points. It's one thing to prevent points. It's another thing to turn that into points. And UCLA, in this game against Prairie View A&M, they scored 111 points for 17 turnovers, points off turnovers. And the statistical oddity that I am a little curious about, fast break points. UCLA was only credited with 3 fast break points. So technically, in a game, they didn't get out and run because there's a lot of free throws. They forced a lot of turnovers. They scored almost 50 points in the paint. They proved that they can run the half-court offense of sorts. Maybe a 3/4 fast break run is not a full fast break points. I still hesitate to think that they only have 3 fast break points in this game, but that is UCLA flexing its muscle. Who stood out? Obviously, when you could score 18 points on 6 shots, fantastic. Dylan Andrews, 21 points, 12 shots, highly efficient, 6 assists. Kobe Johnson does everything, 12 points, 3 steals, 5 rebounds, 7 assists in less than 30 minutes. Wonderful, wonderful production for a UCLA team that had 26 assists on 36 made field goals. So it's not like somebody was going up there and they're just taking their turns like the NBA, throwing up shots, throwing up threes. No, they were getting turnovers, kicking it up, running the offense, finding the open man, and that would lead to either open buckets for any of them. In this game, UCLA had 5 players with 10 or more points and 2 players that were stuck at 9. So they almost had 7 players with 10 points. All right. This was an impressive performance, but also a worrying performance. However, as was alluded to in the postgame, a good lead-up game for the Bruins to go play North Carolina, which we'll talk about next in the final segment of Locked On UCLA. It's that time of the year. The college football playoff is back, and with the newly expanded 12-team format, it's guaranteed to be bigger and better than ever. Bring you all the hard-hitting action and the high-flying excitement that you love. TNT Sports coverage of the college football playoff begins December 21st, starting with the college football playoff kickoff show presented by AT&T at 11 a.m. Eastern, leading into our first matchup, the Southern Methodist University Mustangs battling the Penn State Nittany Lions at noon. Then the Clemson Tigers looked to upset the Texas Longhorns in a showdown at 4 p.m. Eastern. Don't miss a moment of the action. Watch the college football playoff presented by Allstate live on TNT, True TV, TBS, and Max. All right, cruising on, final segment. We're keeping on with basketball right now. Of course, anything can change at any given moment about with the portal, with more coaching changes, anything, right? It's that day and age where this could be going on deep into the next semester, the next quarter, as we saw last year with the retirements, coaching changes, portals, everything. Anything and everything can truly make something change, all right? So here is what UCLA has done. 10 commits, everything. Get a few new coaches, 3 or 4 new coaches, new titles, promote a couple, bring back some Jim Mora-era swagger, and now UCLA is just trying to put in that final dagger and get those final pieces in the portal and turn this class of 25 into something that makes the Rose Bowl alive. Coolio? All right, now we're going back to UCLA basketball. The Bruins, they win this 111-75 over Prairie View A&M. A lot of pieces doing some good things. Great to see Sky Clark, even though he didn't do a lot offensively, still continues to shoot the ball better, even though he didn't shoot a lot. Bilodeau, consistent from 3. Dylan Andrews doing the same. UCLA, I did like to see 16 minutes from Adai Mara, 9 points, 10 rebounds. Would have had a double-double if he had made one of those free throws he missed in 16 minutes. And William Kyle III is super athletic, can do a lot, but 4 points, couple of rebounds, and he is a bit of a liability at the free throw line. He is well under 50%, but let's not focus on that because hopefully between him and Mara, and it looks like Adai is actually getting the bulk of the runtime, mostly because Cronin has worked with him more, and the 7'3" Spaniard has more of an offensive flair to the game, and when Kyle comes in, it can be a bit of a liability, it looks like, offensively. Adai Mara can bring a little bit more right away since Cronin's worked with him for a year plus and built him up in the weight room, built him up in the media, built him up with getting limited time and earning that time. Kyle, he's getting time. If he didn't, he'd be more like Dominic Harris, or as we saw with this game, Sebastian Mack, not earning any minutes. But hopefully one of those two can develop, or maybe the two of those together turn it into, as this game saw, 27 minutes of pretty productive playing time. Now, you're not always going to be up by 40, 50 points against a team that's much smaller. UCLA is going to need those rebounds, need the athleticism, and they're going to need quicker players when UCLA is going against North Carolina, who nearly took down Florida, a top 10 unbeaten team on a neutral court. They're leading late, gave up a go-ahead bucket late, unfortunately. If North Carolina could have grabbed a rebound, we could be talking about a UCLA-North Carolina matchup with the Tar Heels coming off a top 10 win and making that more impressive for their resume. At the moment, the way North Carolina's record looks, it's turning into what I think to be a North Carolina team from 2 years ago, where they're preseason number 1, just kind of uneven, even though they had a lot of talent returning from the team that made it to the championship game. And then it didn't really pan out that year. I think North Carolina is probably better than that team that returned the Baycotts, the Loves, the RJ Davises of the world. And it didn't pan out. And then that's why we saw Caleb Love now at Arizona for 2 years. But this is a revenge tour UCLA's on from tournaments of years past, right? Or former conference rivals. Took down Arizona, got through this challenge that was Prairie View A&M for their 10th win. And now you got a North Carolina team. You beat this team. And if for some reason, if UCLA falls onto the bubble, this is a huge game where if North Carolina is struggling, they're on the bubble, or if they're in the tournament and say UCLA, worst case scenario, collapses, they're going to have those wins away from home against Arizona. against Oregon, who's currently top 10. You beat North Carolina. If they get any better, that win's going to look so much better on the resume. And it's still going to probably be, because of the brand name, at least a quad 1, most likely a quad 2. Maybe reverse those, maybe quad 1, at least a quad 2, since it's away from home. And they give more rewards for winning a quad 1, beating a tough team away from home. I just hope UCLA can handle the quickness and not go through 10 to 15-minute spurts where they just forget how to play basketball. All right? They just seem like middle schoolers at times that forget to do what Mick Cronin wants. They throw the ball away. And it's not like, okay, you go cold from the field and it's like, okay, they need to fix something. It's a good adjustments. No, they turn it over like 6 times, miss 3 shots, and they've gone 10 possessions without a bucket, and they look like the worst team ever. Then the other 30 minutes, here they are, they've scored 111 points. They get to the free throw line, a little disjointed because this game had a combined, 61 free throws between these two teams? Okay. But they can't play like that and expect to beat North Carolina across the country. This is UCLA's first big flight away from home of the season. So they'll be energetic now. I just wonder how the travel is going to affect the team becoming a lot greater in early January through early March. That 2-month stretch is going to test the UCLA Bruins mentally, physically, as a team, and we'll see how that all translates. Because the Bruins, they're going to need a Dominic Harris. They're going to need all these guys with this pro-level travel that's going to come up, and they need to beat North Carolina. Yes, because they owe them one for a couple of years ago when the Bruins could have got a lot deeper in the NCAA tournament. And 2, you win that game, you're going to have all these head-to-head wins against teams in the bubble, on the bubble right now. That just kind of secures UCLA an arm's distance away. Hey, we're not on the bubble. We're good enough, and we've got good wins over big-name programs to help make sure their resume is stacked. If it's between a 2 seed, if it's a 1 seed, if it's a 6 seed to a 4 seed, all those things are going to help UCLA in the future. All of them. And here's another thing to kind of sit there and think about this year's team versus last year's team. UCLA, in mid-December, picked up win number 10 this season in 2024. UCLA, last season, in the 23-24 season, did not pick up their 10th win until they beat Oregon State for the second time, February 1st, I believe. So in 2 separate seasons, UCLA has picked up their 10th win in the same calendar year. Last season, it was in February. I had seen this UCLA team late January when they beat USC, and we were hoping that was a big catalyst for a run. And it kind of was. They had to go with 11 losses before. They went through a strong stretch of December where they had a lot of losses in a row. That was different because they did go play in the Maui Invitational. They had to go play away from home against Villanova, Ohio State, as you see this going on and on. But here we are, early stages of December, early stages of the season, and the Bruins are 10-1. And yes, a lot of these have been cupcakes, but it's been no easy test to win against Arizona away from home and go to Oregon and get a strong win. Washington's kind of scrappy, so they've got 3 power conference wins to start and only 1 ugly showing. Cronin teams so far under UCLA in the first 10, 15 games generally have 2 ugly showings, and then they figure it out during conference play. They're 10-1. Let's make it 11-1, have some fun. Because North Carolina, Gonzaga, that will be a lot of fun going forward for the Bruins. And until then, till more portal commits come in, maybe coaching changes, maybe a quarterback's coming, maybe it's not. We're going to dissect that all here on Locked On UCLA. So get your hands up, Bruins fans. 8 clap time, baby. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. UCLA. UCLA, fight, fight, fight. This has been Locked On UCLA. Zach signing off. Go Bruins.